Okay, so by now we know the drill to use the camera API. What I should note here is that for mobile apps, which tend to be limited in memory, you want to use file URI, which will basically, I guess, store the image on the phone, and all we do is assign that to the image source. What we're doing here, we'll see that in a minute. We're just getting an element by ID, an image tag, and we're just changing the source to that file location or unique resource identifier, I think that stands for. But anyway, that's for mobile phones. But if you can actually use all these APIs for browsers, if you're using a web browser, I found that this doesn't work. You need to use a data URL, which is not recommended for um, mobile apps because it's memory intensive and can cause the app to crash. So you should use this for mobile phones. It works on mobile phones, but if you're using web browsers, it tends to this you should use, I suppose. And these are the only changes. They're the same exact thing. It's just these are the differences. So let's do the browser first. That's easy. So all we do, we copy this in here. Let's paste the script in. Let's neaten the code. And one last thing, we need the image tag. So we can put that in the body. And we can remove the documentation. So this is an image without a source, so it won't show without a source. Now this can actually be in one line, but on multiple lines just to make it look neat. But just to show you for clarity, we have on success, which we'll call this function here, and we get the image data. So essentially what we get is the image passed as a parameter, and all we're doing is saying document get element by ID, my image. So we're getting this image tag, and we're going to replace it with the JPEG base64 image. We just add on this, I guess this gives the format of the image to this string, and that basically just updates the source and displays the image. That's all. And if it fails for some reason, the camera maybe doesn't exist or whatever error, we get a message displayed. And we just leave the defaults from the documentation, quality, and this is the only thing here. And let's try it in the browser. Save that. No. Oh wait. If we were to run this as is, it would just run this script and run it once, and that's it. And it would run it every time we refresh the browser. What we want is a function. So let's create a function snap. And let's put that in a function. And then let's have a button to take a picture. So let's have button, whoops, and snap pic, and let's say on click equals snap, which is our function, brackets, because we're calling the function. So anytime we click this button, it'll call the camera. Save that? No. Remember, we have to install the plugin first before we can use it. So let's just paste that in here, enter. And because we're targeting the browser, we have to do Cordova platform add browser. and that will install the browser to our project. I've already added the Android one. So let's test any browser. Cordova, run browser, hit enter. And this is it in the browser, and we can debug it in the debugger if necessary. So, okay, so snap pick. And now I have my camera capture. And now we see the image updates. And if we were to inspect this image, inspect, we will see it. This is in fact all this whole string here is the image stored as a base 64 string. So if we were to edit that, this is the whole image here. So that's why they say it's memory intensive, I suppose. Shift end, and this whole string here is your image. So that's the whole image there. And if we were to copy this in another window, we get the image and we see how big that text is. And we can snap another pic. Let me take one with my hand just to make it look different. Good. And if we were to reload the browser, note the image disappears. So I will show you how to use web storage to make the image permanent, more store it permanently on your computer or mobile app. Alright, before we go, we should stop the server. So Cordova actually runs a local web server when you run it in the browser for testing. And so you want to stop that. So it says Control C to shut down static file server running localhost. So you press Control C in here, terminate batch job, press Y and then press enter. So Control C in here is to kill a process, not copy. You can't copy and paste in here just like that. If you want to copy something, you have to right click, mark, and drag your mouse over it, and then tap the right mouse button, and then you can paste that somewhere. So for example, I could paste that in here just to show you, but anyway. Alright, so to save an image permanently, what we could do is use web storage. So let's go to our JavaScript notes. Let's scroll all the way to the bottom around here. So we will see what we have here is web storage. You can read more on that, but essentially all we need to do, we can local storage.set an item. This can be any keyword we want, and this is the value. And to retrieve it, we can have a variable get item, whatever the key that we had set up here was, or we could just use local storage dot last name equal to our value, and to retrieve it we would use last name equal local storage dot whatever our key is up here, either or, that's up to you. It doesn't matter. To delete an item from local storage, we can use local storage dot remove item. Note, however, that when you use local storage, if you're storing numbers, it will store it as a string even if you send it a number. So just remember that when you're retrieving back from local storage, if you may need to convert numbers to strings using the number methods. So you might want to use the number method to convert a string to a number, parse float, parse int, that kind of thing. And yeah, that's just something to note. So I'm just going to copy this as an example. This one's simpler, I suppose. And let's go back to our code. So I've copied the code here. I've changed this to image 1, local storage.image1. I can name that anything I want. This is kind of my local storage variable. So this is to set and get it, restore and retrieve. So I'm just going to erase that one, erase that. So what I want to know is if we had an image before. So if local storage dot image one, if I have defined that variable before, then, and I can do that because any variable that hasn't been defined will have this value undefined, which equates to false. And if statements expect Boolean expressions, true or false values. But just for clarity, I could say if local storage not equal to undefined, alright, not equal, then I want to update the image source. So in fact, I'll make this a global variable as well. I'll cut that out of that function. I'll put it up here. So that's a global variable, which means I can access it in here now. Then I want image source is then going to be equal to local storage dot image one. So we've retrieved that and we've updated the image source up here. However, if it is undefined, we skip that and we leave the image empty. And the other thing we need to do now, when we take a picture, we need to store that image in here as well. So what we do, we come into this function and we paste our local storage dot image one. We want to set it now in here. Whenever we take a picture, we want to store the image. So we say that is equal to image dot source, because we've assigned it up here, and now we just set this local storage value, which is kind of permanent storage, you can think of it, but it's browser storage, and the app can clear out cache, so it's not necessarily the best practice, but simplicity over best practices for right now. It works. If you clear your app cache, the images will disappear. This will be deleted, but it works fairly well. And that is all. Let's test it out. Save that. Let's go back in here. Let's do Cordova run browser. See what happens. So now we have a fresh browser. So let's snap a pic, capture, and let's reload. And we see once I reload, it's still there. If I close that browser tab, come back, paste it in, it's still there. And this is a very useful way. So let me take a picture of my hand now, and I reload, it's still there. So this is a very useful way of storing data. And web storage is not just for pictures. You can store variables, you can store strings, you can store whatever you want in a key value pair. You can have as many local storage items as you want. So I could have had image 1, image 2, I could have any variable, so it's useful. Just to show you how quickly to use this in a mobile app, I'll just change this to file URI, and I'll just get rid of this string part in front of that, and I'm ready. Save that. Let's go in here, Cordova, emulate Android, hit enter. Right, so when I click snap pic, now I get a permission alert to allow the camera, so you have to allow. And now it takes my picture, so I click snap, click yes, and now my picture is in here, And if I come out the app, let's say if I close the app and I come back in the app, my image is still there. And you can improve on this, make it delete an image, whatever you want. So I can go snap another pic. I can even change the camera to my virtual camera. So I can even walk around in here and maybe take a picture of the kitchen. Yeah. So now I have a picture of the kitchen, and again, if I exit the app and reopen it, the image is still there. If I wanted to, I could clear out the app cache. Storage, I believe. Clear cache. And if I do that, my image is gone.